Today's sermon is quite simple, actually. Today, I would like to talk about people. The people who have impacted my life, and I would like to share with you the people who have impacted my life. I think we all need relationships where people know us in a deep way, who still love us, and who point us to God in return. I think we all need these type of relationships. So let me start telling you about these people in my life. The first person, as I was thinking about today, that I had to share about was my grandmother named Joyce. She was the first person who took me to church as a young child. She started taking me to church in the 5th grade. I remember I would sit in my home church, and we would sit in the second pew every single Sunday. So we'd sit in this pew together. She would always sing in the choir. She actually was a baritone voice. She had this deep voice for being a woman. And so she would always come up and sing in the choir. And I would listen and watch so patiently. And she would always come back. And the best part about this, every time we would stand to sing a hymn together, my grandmother Joyce and I would do something special. She would grab her pinky, and she would take her pinky and connect my pinky together. And every single Sunday for years, we would sit in the second pew of the church, holding pinky to pinky as we sat and sang the various hymns and songs of our church. But not only did she take me to church, but my grandmother Joyce was the very first person who taught me about Jesus, who showed me what the Bible was, and who made sure that I was in church every single Sunday. There was no excuses allowed. I would say that my grandmother Joyce was the first person who taught me about Jesus. Here's another person, and that is Hannah. Outside of the obvious reasons why I love her, I want to say something very specific about Hannah today. There's one reason why I married her, and it was so clear to me, was that she is someone who loves Jesus so much. Her faith in God is so and was so contagious to me in her dating. When we first started dating, actually, I remember that one of the things I was attracted to the most, and I told her this, was that she had a deep spirituality that was contagious, and I wanted to know how she loved God so much. So one of the reasons why I married her, because I wanted to love God better, and I knew I could do that through my marriage with Hannah. But at any time anyone asks me about why I'm a pastor, anytime anyone asks me why I choose to be in ministry, I tell them about my home church in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. I tell them about Christ Community United Methodist Church, which we would call the church on the hill in the small rural town of Selinsgrove. I tell them this. I tell them about this congregation many years ago who decided to treat someone young with a little extra care and attention. I tell them about the ways that this entire congregation rallied around a young kid, a young, short, smoke-smelling, often obnoxious, extremely hyper kid. I tell them that this place and these remarkable people called Jesus out of me. They spoke, encouraged, and shared with me the Jesus that they so loved and followed. I tell people that they met me at my own brokenness and sins of my own family and offered me hope. I tell them that these people took a kid who was born into a single-parent, alcoholic, drug-addicted, deep neglect home to be cared by 2 new parents who loved Jesus and loved the church in incredible ways. I tell them that this church made me feel loved and made me feel known. They pointed me to Jesus and called me to tell others about this Jesus guy. I tell them about Nancy and Bill Bingaman, who as a young kid would actually pick up my biological grandmother named Joyce and I up to church each Sunday. They would take us. They were faithful in providing transportation for us many years because my grandmother couldn't drive. And they not only would take me to church, but they would take us to any other church function anytime at the church. I tell people about Kim and Sharon Beck, who after my grandmother stopped attending church, she would pick me up for church each week. She would have lunch with me every Sunday, would cut my hair for free, and included me in her Sunday schedule for many years. I tell people about Don and Bev Foltz. Don was my confirmation mentor when I was in middle school. He would give me rides back and forth through confirmation class, and he provided financial assistance for me to attend any class trip that I wanted to growing up. I tell people about Lee Hummel, who after preaching my very first sermon at my home church, shared something very special with me that I will never forget. And I often hear his voice in my mind as I think about my task as a preacher. I tell people about Barb Inch and Judy Steinbacher, Ann Carter, and others who supported my grandmother in her own health concerns. They were all doctors and nurses, and not only could my grandmother not drive, but she was also blind. And so these doctors would help schedule out her insulin, kind of know how much insulin she should take each time. So they made her shots for her during the week. And so they would bring them to the church, we would pick them up from the refrigerator, and we would take them home. And we would have this cycle for so many years for these people. I want to tell people about Julie Thomas, who when I didn't have a parent to shadow on Take Your Child to Work Day, she agreed to pick me up and allow me to shadow and follow her. She was a teacher at the Northumberland Christian Academy. I tell people about Terry Peterson, who purchased me my very first Bible and also purchased me my very first pair of glasses. He realized when I was in 9th grade that I couldn't see from the back of the sanctuary to the front, and he needed to solve the problem. I tell people about John and Janice Cascianano, who bought me a summer pool pass in the 6th grade. I want to tell people about Christina McDermott, who first started giving me rides to youth group in 6th grade, even before she was employed at the church. She provided me with weekly homework assistance when I was in elementary and middle school, and when I asked her in middle school if I could go to college, she said, if you want to, we'll make it happen. It was the first time I believed I could go to college because of her words, and she provided spiritual guidance for me from an early age. I want to tell people about Barry and Joni Robinson and Pastor Kathy Kind, who always believed in me. I want to tell people about Carol Smith, who would drive me to school for many years. And when she worked in the school library, she encouraged and supported my developing love of reading. And we would deliver holiday meals each Christmas and Easter to needy people in our community through one of the ministries of the church. I want to tell people about Mrs. K, who always was available for an encouraging note or calling often to remind me that she loves me, and is the only woman who has sent me a Valentine's Day card every year for the past 10 years. I tell them about Lori Sabalime and Betty Davis, and all of the other Ugandan friends who I have grown to love and cherish through our travels together. They have been gracious to me on these trips, and they helped discover in me a passion for travel, for mission work, and a ministry where I saw Matthew 25 and 28 lived out so well. I want to tell people about Krista Clark and Emily Shipman, who purchased a memorable gift when I was in the 6th grade. They purchased 2 CDs for me. One of them was Switchfoot, and I can't remember the other. But they also gave me a prayer journal, which was the first time I began writing down my prayers, a spiritual practice I continue today. I want to tell people about my youth group peers, Gabe and Alan and Tyler and Jordan and Krista and Derek and Robin and Mark. I want to tell people about the endless number of care packages that I received in college. I want to tell people about Ann Spangler Gargis, Deb and Dwayne McCacken, Jerry and Gail Mauer, the Brouses, Lisa Weichel, the Zaporowskis, the Kerstetters, the Howe, and I could go on and on and on. I want to tell people about Tim and Debbie Bingman, who are willing to house, raise, and eventually adopt a teenager who does that, someone who learned to cope by sleeping. And for my entire first year living in their house, I would ask to get a drink of water. I would always sing in the shower, and these 2 people became my biggest supporters. And after learning more about me, my sins, and let me say my quirkiness or uniqueness, whatever it is, they continue to love and care for me even more. And I want to finally tell people about Jesus, who provided me with a space to just be me as a kid. Some people call it a church, but I want to call it a family. A family who took their vows at my baptism seriously. A people of faith who believed in me, who continue to push, challenge, and support me, and a congregation who always ask when I see them how things are going at State Line United Methodist Church. I think our God is literally so good. I don't think I deserve this. I have sinned deeply. I have failed many times. I continue to sin and fail. I am so imperfect. But God is so good. So at the bottom of my heart, and with the best words I know how to use in the English language, I want to thank those people who not only cared for me, but who raised me. I think that church knew what it was like to be a church. And I'm convinced that they modeled to me what the church is all about. Meeting people where they are, allowing them to be authentically themselves, and they pulled the Jesus that was already in me out. I think this is what our faith would be. I don't think I would be a Christian. I certainly don't think that I would have gone to college if it wasn't for those people at that church. So those are the people who impacted my life. I would love to tell you more and more of those stories. People who intentionally built a relationship with me as a young kid. So I want to ask you, who has impacted your life? Who has impacted your spiritual journey? I think this is reflected in Proverbs 13:20, which tells us that by walking with the wise, we become wise. But if we have companionship with fools, we will suffer with them. I think there's always a spiritual component of our lives together. And I think there's always a spiritual component to all of our relationships together. I think the people who we interact with have the potential to support us in our faith, or maybe not so support us in our faith. So I made an intentional decision as an elementary age child to not use the drugs that I found in my home and to not drink the alcohol that I saw in our refrigerator. But I realized as a young child that I wanted more. And the people who taught me what that more was people in a church like you, like the people at my home church in Sealands Grove. So who has pointed you to Jesus? Who are those people? Who are those people who are living, or those people who may have passed, who have been your greatest supporter in your relationship with Jesus? Along your life's journey, who were the people who knew your story, who loved you and showed you who Jesus was? I think by being here at State Line, or actually maybe being in the church in general, someone has supported you to be in church and to be a follower of Jesus. I think it is imperative for us to have relationships where people can point us to Jesus. I might call that providential relationships, but we can probably just say there's key relationships in our life where people know us in a deep way, who still love us anyway, and who point us back to Jesus. I think these people are so crucial in our life. Now, like I said with the kids this morning, this may mean that there are relationships in our life that maybe don't point us to Jesus. Are there people who are distracting us from our love and following of Jesus? Are there people in our lives who push us actually up against our faith? Maybe who think it's weird to be a Christ follower. But maybe this is a challenging proposition to make or not. But maybe our faith in God may be stronger when we distance people away from us who might not encourage our faith. The biggest person in my life who thought it was crazy to be a Christian, do you want to guess who that was? My own biological mother. She thought it was erroneous and crazy that I would want to go and be a Christian in a church. She wanted me to not have faith in a church, or not have faith in God at all. So at a young age, I knew I had to distance myself from her if I wanted to fully follow after God in my life. So who are those people that distract us from our love and relationship with Jesus? I don't think that we shouldn't be friends with those people, but I wonder if it's helpful if we distance ourselves from them so they don't impact us too much on our faith. I'm convinced that as we distance or as we recognize who those people are, I know and I believe that God will plant within us people who will keep us centered on God. People who will care and who will love for us. People who will love us unapologetically and keep us focused on Jesus. I think we need people who know us deeply and who point us back to God. So I wonder if we are that church. Are we that church where we can look at each other, we can smile, we can love each other, and at the end of the day, we point each other back to God? Are we that church who knows each other's stories, who haven't stopped asking questions? This may be hard for people who've been here for a while. I think we may think that we know everyone, we know everything about everyone's stories. But even at church our size, we don't know everything about everyone. So are we a people who are still asking questions, still wanting to know the people that we attend church with, and where we ask them questions? And maybe we're not just the people who want to know what you did on a Saturday night, or wanted to know what you're eating for lunch on a Sunday. All of those things are important to relationships, to know what others are doing. But I wonder if God wants us to be people who have deep, holistic, providential relationships where we call Jesus out of each other. Let us not just be friends. Let us not just be friends. But what if we took an intentional focus on pulling Jesus that is in each one of us out? What if we are a people who are supporting each other, not just when something in our sickness, when our life goes wrong, but be a people who are encouraging each other to grow in our faith and to know each other deeply? I think this is what it means to be a church. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm naive. But I saw it as a kid. I'm only here because of a church. I think we can be that church to one another still today. What will help us grow in our faith? Relationships that are deep with one another now. That's my sermon today. That's it. I pray that God speaks to you. This is what I would like us to do. It's early. One of my favorite moments of being your pastor was last fall when we circled up in the sanctuary. And I would like us to circle up again. And we're going to sing not the song that's in the bulletin, but we're going to sing Amazing Grace. And I want us to look at each other. And I want us to offer that grace to one another in this space, here and now. Because we're here for each other. So I'm going to invite us to stand around the perimeter of our sanctuary now. And we'll sing Amazing Grace together. So let us do that together. I'll let you guys hold hands and we'll hand. We can reach around. We can try to reach around. We won't go a full circle. I think we could actually. Yeah. Yeah, we'll let Marvin.